Many assumed that the Wii version of Rygar had been quietly cancelled, but Rygar superfans rejoice. The game has finally arrived. Again. Well, maybe rejoice isn't quite the word I'm looking for. Rygar the Battle for Argus is not a sequel to the 6-year-old PlayStation 2 game. Instead, it's the same game with a few motion controls, gameplay tweaks, and a new gladiator mode added. Tecmo is billing this as the definitive version of the game. And for all intents and purposes, that statement just might be true. However, a better question is whether or not this port really needed to be made 6 years later. First, the good. Rygar's signature disc armor weapon is still pretty unique. There are 3 types, and it's fun to power up each armor with different mystic stones that grant special abilities. Each of the 3 weapons also can summon monsters that dish out heavy damage, and these are fun to watch. The destructible environments are great, and there are some cool graphic effects such as reflections on marble tiles and the like. Exploration is done well. It's a little like Zelda in that obtaining an item like the hookshot will open up areas that you couldn't get to before. And finally, the full orchestral score is very good. Unfortunately, there's also much to dislike about the game. First of all, it doesn't run in widescreen, and there's no excuse for that in this day and age. Character dialogue and lip syncing is terrible, and the story is all over the place.
I would never turn down a fight against evil.
And dude, what's with Rygar's hair? This is supposed to take place in Greco-Roman times, but that is clearly a Japanese dude. Hair aside, a real issue is the control. Jumping is oddly relegated to the Z button of your nunchuck, and this causes some very frustrating platforming parts. Unfortunately, Rygar does not allow us to change its control scheme. Wii motion controls are used for finishing moves, and this works well enough, but Rygar just feels sluggish overall. By the time you start a combo chain, the enemy is already behind you. It just doesn't feel empowering to the player. There are rooms where bad guys keep respawning until you hack through some ambiguous amount, and they will have returned when you re-enter the room. This cheap gameplay mechanic robs the player of a sense of accomplishment. There is hardcore, and then there's dated. Rygar falls more into the annoyingly dated gameplay category. The one new mode is called Gladiator Mode. This is basically a survival, enemy rush game where you fight through 30 rooms of bad guys, from minions to bosses. There's a greater emphasis on motion controls here, and it's a pretty fun diversion. Battle for Argus begs the question, why? The game might have been impressive in 2002, but by now, many better action games have come out. Sure, there's not a lot of these types of games on the Wii, but that doesn't mean we should just settle for a tweaked PlayStation 2 port. The real tragedy here is that Tecmo decided to change the Japanese title. Wouldn't you want to play a game named Rygar Muscle Impact? Yeah, I thought so. For the full written review, muscle impact your way to IGN.com.